there, when you're seeing this, you're probably like, who's this bitch? But honestly, I just filmed a tutorial for this neutral week that we're doing. So obviously, I said obviously twice in a meeting. Now I said it 3 times. It's beginning to get awkward. I'm doing something very neutral. And you're gonna see this towards the end of the week, so don't worry about it. I thought I was gonna do a video like talking about neutral palettes and why I feel like some palettes make sense and some don't. So I'm gonna use 3 different examples. Well, you're gonna see what I mean in a bit, of like 3 palettes that I think made sense being released and 3 palettes that I feel like make no sense at all, and I'm gonna explain why, and I'm gonna take like one of the good ones and one of the bad ones, and we can discuss it, and I can let you know how I feel about neutral palettes and brands releasing neutral palettes and stuff like that. And I would love to hear your thoughts about this as well down in the comments, because I feel like this is something that we have discussed a lot in the comments when I film my new makeup releases going on the wish list or not. So I thought that we could do a video with just having this kind of discussion, and we can talk about what makes us feel like a neutral palette is an okay release and what makes us feel like a neutral palette is just like, could you just not? So I'm gonna start with one palette that I feel, oh my god, I mean, I have no pants on, it's really hot in Sweden and I'm a bit sweaty, so I'm like sticking to the chair. Yeah, that's too much information. I know. Feel like Monica and Friends. I know. The first palette I want to talk about anyways is the Nudie Patootie palette by Laura Lee. I feel like this palette is very true to her brand, and she only had one palette before, and I don't think that either her viewers or her self was very pleased with that palette when it all came down to it. I mean, I don't think that that was actually her dream palette. I think she made too many compromises with that palette, trying to put in some like purple, but this palette, once she released now, the Nudie Patootie, that's more her style. She is the neutral like queen. She does all neutral looks. That's what she does. She loves that. If she does like a colored look, it's like once in a blue moon. I am not subscribed to Laura at this day because I wasn't very inspired by her makeup, because I'm not into neutral makeup, but it makes sense for her to release a palette like this. And the palette has been getting some really good reviews. I watched a couple of reviews of this palette and there's no way that I'm getting it, but I get the concept. It's very her. It's the second palette she's releasing, so it makes sense. The only thing that I feel is like challenging for her is that since she is so into neutral makeup, it's gonna be really hard for her to release more eyeshadow palettes, because if she now releases another eyeshadow palette that's neutral, I'm gonna feel that that one doesn't make sense at all. But right now, I feel like this is pretty like spot on her brand and her as a person, and I feel like if you are a fan of Laura Lee and if you are a fan of neutral makeup, which to be honest most people out there are, I think that this makes great sense. A palette that I felt made no sense at all, and I think that a lot of people agree with me on this one, is the Urban Decay Light Chaser Light Beam eyeshadow palette. It's 5 eyeshadows and it's like it looks like leftovers. This isn't very Urban Decay. It is not on brand at all. It's not even on trend. It's just, I think that even some of the mattes have shimmer in it. One of them is a glitter, one of them is like a nectar orange, and then it's just like, who is this eyeshadow palette for? This is not very Urban Decay. It is not on trend, and I haven't seen anyone, not even neutral lovers, that feel like this is something they want to get. I mean, if you get a neutral eyeshadow palette, you either want it to bring something new or you want it to be a staple palette so that you can do your whole look with it. At least that's the information that I've been getting whilst we're like looking at neutral palette reviews. Correct me if I'm wrong, it seems like that is the thing that people want to see. Either a new concept or something that's a whole look in a palette. These are not things that, I mean, I don't need a whole look in a palette, but I don't buy neutral palettes either, so I'm not the one that should be giving critiques when it comes to that aspect. I'm just saying what I'm looking for. But when it comes to this one, it's like a lot of people will probably struggle to make a look out of this one. And I like small eyeshadow palettes, but why are you like selling yourself short, making a scrambled up, random, no sense at all palette that's just not very inspiring, not very fun, and just doesn't really make sense. I like jumbled up eyeshadow palettes, but when it's like a beige, an orange, and a glittery shadow, I'm just like, for whom is this palette? Like, who's gonna be excited for this palette? And I feel like Urban Decay missed the mark on like the target audience. Like, who wants this palette? Sometimes when I reorganize my C palettes or like my magnetic palettes, I always end up getting like 3, 4, 5, 6 shades that are like left out that I don't have any space for, and I just take those and I put them in a small C palette. I'm just like, I'm just gonna leave these here for now, and maybe next time when I reorganize my palettes, I'll have space for them. Normally those combos are super weird and random. It doesn't look like a palette at all, and this is like the vibe that I feel like this light beam palette is as well. It's just like somebody picked up 5 shades that was left out of some other projects, put them in an eyeshadow palette and call it a day. But I don't think that anybody really wants this. The next palette that I feel makes a lot of sense, and I talked about this briefly in the video where I talked about this palette as being news, and that is the Warrior palette, the Amazon's Warrior palette by Juvia's Place. It is a very yellow-toned, goldy, neutral eyeshadow palette that Juvia's Place has just recently come out with. And when you're watching this video, if you're watching it the day it's being released, when it comes up, the next video that's going to be on my channel is going to be on the Warrior palette. This is not my color scheme at all. I am not into golds. I actually kind of don't even like golds, and I'm not into browns, but I still want to try the palette to somewhat give you my opinion on it so that you can see if it's the same quality as other Juvia's Place palettes, and you're gonna have to see about that in the next video. But I feel like it makes sense for Juvia's, because Juvia's is known for making either very colorful palettes or very colorful palettes with a pop of neutral. They only really have one eyeshadow palette that's an all neutral palette, and that is their first eyeshadow palette. That one is called the Nubian eyeshadow palette, and it is, from what I've heard, not the same quality as the ones that came before. When they released the Nubian 2, that's when they got this really nice formula that they are known for. Not that the Nubian 1 is bad, people are just saying it's not as good as the formula that they had before. I have the Nubian 2 and the formula is amazing. I haven't tried the Nubian 1. So for me, it's not impossible that they are thinking of releasing a new neutral palette and the new and improved formula, and maybe they're even thinking about getting rid of that first palette if it doesn't really meet the criteria of the rest of the collection that they have. It makes sense. And also the color scheme of the first palette is more of that orangey warm neutrals. Like, people have even said that it pulls a bit rosy toned. I don't own it, and the Warrior palette is very neutral and yellow and gold. That is the tone in that palette, and you will see that in the next video. So I feel it makes sense. But if Juvia's is gonna start releasing neutral palettes left and right and go be color pop on us, you're gonna hear about it. I'm gonna be upset. But to release one neutral eyeshadow palette every like 2-3 years, I'll let that slide. The next palette I'm going to talk about is actually 2 palettes, and I don't even know the names of these because I didn't bother learning the names. And it is the 2 new eyeshadow palettes by Morphe. Like, this is the thing. Morphe is saturating their own brand. Every eyeshadow palette they are releasing is either 2/3 or 3/4 of just browns. And I feel like they have released like 15 palettes like that now. Is it even 20 maybe? People have the browns now. At this point, we know you're recycling shades, and it just feels a bit lazy and non-creative. And I don't mind brands releasing a lot of makeup. Like, you do you. I feel a bit overwhelmed, but some people love it, so just go ham. But don't release the same things all over. Cause we don't like that. I mean, we see that and we don't like it. And I feel like Morphe is just like, they got the brown blinds on, and they're just like, people like neutrals, people like browns, we better make every palette have a foundation of brown. And I think they're just killing their own brand doing that, because it's like they're a living meme right now. Every palette is brown, and like, is there any creativity at the brand? And it seems like they feel themselves like they are releasing a pink palette, but it's like 3 pinks and 15 browns. I mean, you're not fooling anyone. So that's why I feel like these palettes make no sense at all. Why didn't they just combine some of these shades and make an awesome, killer, rosy, pinky palette? People would have gone bonkers over that. This is a missed opportunity, Morphe. Just go with it. I'm gonna talk about a brown palette now that I feel not only makes sense, but I'm actually almost tempted to buy, and that is the Dose of Colors Baked Browns. Is it Baked Browns? Baked Browns. It is one of those, is it 6-pan eyeshadows that just have a gradient from light to dark in one color, and this one is a brown one. And I've actually swatched this in store when I was at Ulta in New York, and it is beautiful quality, and it's like, this is the kind of neutral palette that I want. But I would rather be like bone colored, beige, mid brown, dark brown, black. That would be my perfect 6-pan shadow. I wouldn't need any other neutrals. I could just throw away all of my other neutrals because that's pretty much all I need. I don't need 20 neutral eyeshadow palettes. I just need the one. And I was like kind of feeling like Baked Browns could be the one. But yeah, I'm not into browns, but I feel like it makes sense because it's the only eyeshadow palette they have that is brown, and it is like part of the concept of having a gradient within each color. As long as they stick with the theme and release a new color every time they're doing these palettes, I'm gonna give them a pass. I'm gonna say it's okay, because having one neutral eyeshadow palette, it's awesome, especially when it's like a cornerstone, a foundation palette like this one. I think it makes so much sense and the quality is amazing. Let's just hope that they don't release a bunch of neutral palettes. But I would love to see like that one, but with yellows. I know I've been talking about that so much, but I'll die if they release that. And greens as well, and blues. I'd love that. I feel like I'm cheating slightly with the last one, and that this is just basically, I don't have a specific palette that I want to mention, but this is just Tarte Cosmetics releasing any kind of neutral palette. I'm gonna see if I can put on the sides here the kind of neutral palettes you can right now, when I'm filming this video, find at the Tarte Cosmetics website. So these are all palettes that are available right now. This brand does not need any more neutral eyeshadow palettes. It's like they're trying to keep up. They want to release a lot of palettes, they want to release a lot of makeup, but it's all the same. It's all the same. And I do know that they do have some palettes that aren't all neutrals, and you can probably see that they weren't included in these on the sides, but it's just like, it's enough. Like, we get it, you like browns, but just try something else. It's the same with like what I said with Morphe. I bet people love the Tarte eyeshadow quality. Not everyone, but a lot of people do, and the same with Morphe. Some people really love the eyeshadow quality, and they could do so much more. And if they release something that isn't what they have always released, because I mean Tarte seems to be on a beige kick, like they're on a high, they're going wild, they're going for it, they're not even trying to put a pop in, it's just browns. And I feel like if they would just reach out and make a different kind of palette, they could attract some new customers instead of trying to appeal to the customers that they have already lured in. That's how I feel about it, because I have never tried Tarte, and if they keep releasing palettes like this, I never will either. Although, remember that sneak peek that they had of some colorful shadows? But if I know Tarte, they're gonna mess that one up as well. Let me know how you feel about this topic. Do you have any palettes that you feel like, even though you don't want to buy it, it still makes sense? Like, you could totally get why people would want it. And that's how I feel about some of the releases, where I'm like, I definitely do not want to buy it. For me, this is so boring, but I get why you would like it. Like, you understand the vibe? I'd love to hear a discussion down in the comments. I'm gonna have a hard time answering back now that I'm in Greece though, but don't forget to answer each other's comments. I see that you have the best like conversations sometimes, and it just warms my heart. Thank you so much for being here, and don't forget to check out the end of the week when this look is coming up. And yeah, don't forget to subscribe as well. Did I say that? Button is down here. I'm lost. I'll see you Thursday. Bye!